So I'm with Jim with Perfection Inspection, and if you're thinking of buying a home in the next 6 months, we're going to talk about the inspections you should do with your home. So Jim, I know you do full home inspections, and you do radon, and the specialty inspections that we would have to do would be sewer scope, septic if you're on a septic, and well if you're on a well. And that's probably it for the most part. You don't do DEQ tank searches either.
Correct, I do not. A lot of times, just from my experience, mid-50s, mid-60s houses, those are really the ones where they like to bury those tanks. It doesn't mean that older houses might not have had that too, and younger houses sometimes too. Good home inspectors will look for any evidence of maybe possibly it had a tank. There's not too many oil burning furnaces around anymore, so if I see like a masonry chimney in the middle of the house that the gas furnace is using now, I'll look for like copper fill and return lines. There's a bunch of hints. Vent lines, fill pipes outside to suggest that maybe there's a tank outside. So a lot of times I'll look for that. But if you still have a mid-50s house and I can't find any of that stuff, but maybe it still has a chimney and it has 3 flues, and one flue is the furnace and one flue is the fireplace. What did that other flue use? What was it used for? And a lot of times that was the oil furnace. So a lot of times I'll still recommend that in that age range. Different ages, I'll look for different things like that. So I don't do that tank locate stuff, but if I do see any of that stuff, I will recommend that stuff for sure.
So first-time home buyer needs to expect how much for a home inspection typically and radon? Yeah,
so most home inspectors, they get more expensive as they get bigger and they get older. It's just more work. So around $500 for a home inspection. Like I said, older and bigger, you're gonna get more expensive. And then probably around $200 for radon is what most guys are charging these days. Usually it's suggested you might budget around $1,000 for inspections, depending on what kind of a house you're doing. Again, in the country with the well and the septic leach field, sometimes leach fields can be very expensive because they have to locate distribution box. They got to dig them up, so it's a time and materials things.
Yeah, it's time and materials, and they do take usually. Most of the time now they'll shove the camera down the septic from the septic tank to the sewer line to find it, the leach lines, and then you want to dig up the distribution boxes. If there's a problem in the first line and the second line's now being used, what do you got to do to make sure your leach line's still good?
And depending on how many blackberry bushes are over the top of it and stuff like that, sometimes it could take them a while. So yeah, around $1,000 usually for inspections, and a lot of people think about inspections and they think passing and failing things in code compliance, and that's not exactly what we do. It's more like buying a used car, where you have a nitpicky friend that's a mechanic, and you take your car to this mechanic and he says, I don't care if you buy this car, but if you do and you bring it to me, this is what I'm looking at. That's really what inspections are. It's really taking a fine-tooth comb and really learning about what you're buying, and if it is what you thought it was, rock and roll. Go on to the next step. If there is something like a failed leach field or an underground oil tank or 3 feet of water under the house, then maybe address that, because when you made the offer, you didn't know that stuff was going on.
Yep. Well, thanks, Jim. And if you're looking to buy in the next 6 months, those are some things to save for.